another episode of Confessions of a Street Broker. And today, it's the OG of all OGs, Jeff Mersace, Mercer. Jeffrey Allen, you're here.
I am. I'm excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this. I've been studying tape.
Yep.
Watching up, listening up.
There you go.
While I mow the lawn.
Well, yep. Some good, definitely lawn mowing stuff.
It is really good lawn mowing.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Get you a good little walk in or something like that. That's what Nathan Denton was telling me. He's like, yeah, I get a good walk in and I'll listen to these. So yeah. But no, it's been a lot of fun. So this is exciting to get you on here. So, I just want to let everybody know we're starting off with our nutrition.
That's right. I got my drinking shirt on.
Yep.
My blue Martini Robert Graham shirt.
Yep.
I recommend these.
And we are eating our vegetables, like we like to say.
Some Bombay Sapphires.
There we go, baby. Let's go.
Cheers. Refreshing.
Yeah. Just like Mom used to make.
It's a great line.
It is a great line. Golly, that's a funny story. Let's just tell that story real quick. That's pretty funny.
Absolutely. We were at Windstar.
Yeah.
We're at Windstar. Pre-pandemic.
Yeah, pre-pandemic.
Maybe like 19.
Yeah.
And we're going to have an early steak dinner at the steakhouse there. And we're at the bar waiting to get our seat. And the bartender says, "What can I get you to drink?" And I said, I'd like a margarita. And if you know me, my margarita is this much tequila and this much sour mix. And she brought it over. She was a young lady, and she had stirred it all up. She handed it to me and kind of waited there with anticipation. And I took a sip of it. She goes, "How do you like it?" I said, "Just like Mom used to make."
The look on her face went from excitement to, what the hell did this guy just say to me?
Who is this? Whose mom would do that?
Yeah. Oh, God. That was freaking hilarious. So, yeah. So now, every time we take a drink, it's just like Mom used to make.
Which is funny because our parents do not drink.
No, they don't drink. Never drank. I think I saw Dad drink a beer maybe once every 3 years or something.
Right.
So
right. And he had a bottle of scotch.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that I took a tug off when I was like 12, and it was the only tug that had been taken in a decade off that thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It just sat in the cabinet.
There was a bottle of rum in there too, and it quickly became water once I figured out what it was.
little replacement theory.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I didn't think they would be checking because it hadn't moved. It had dust all over it. It hadn't moved, but
it did. I think it was like the one I remember was like black. I mean, it was like a black. You couldn't see through the bottle.
Yeah, you couldn't see through the bottle. So no, but what's really cool about doing all these things, a lot of it ends up like revolving around you. A lot of guys have been spawned from a lot of your teaching and coaching within the industry and working with you, and so it's kind of interesting. There's like just an ecosystem of these guys that have all kind of that you've touched, and so. But let's just start from the beginning. I know your story, but I want to let everybody know it. So just kind of start from the beginning.
Okay. Well, grew up in Irving.
South Irving
with a chip on my shoulder for sure.
Mm-hmm.
When you grow up in South Irving, it's just that way. Went to Irving High, graduated, went to Rice, met Isabella's dad there.
Yep.
Crushed a bunch of sandwiches and serranos with him.
Fresh jalapenos.
Went through the whole Rice thing. An experience, sometimes not the best, sometimes not the worst.
Yeah.
Got out of college and, when I was my senior in college, one of my professors says, "Yeah, my family owns this golf course in Glacier, Montana, blah, blah, blah. And I was so burned out from school and sports, and I just needed a change.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up to him after class, and I said, "Hey, can I get a job working at your golf course in Montana?" And he was like, "Well, I can only pay you $8 an hour." And I was like, "I don't really care. I'll figure it out." I had a little bit of money saved up for whatever reason, not enough to really go too long on. And I was getting married 2 weeks after I graduated college.
Mm-hmm.
So, my wife and I, Christy, we accepted a job. We just did anything.
Yeah.
We were bartender someday. My title was assistant golf pro, which is ridiculous since I really had never played golf.
Yeah.
And we drove up to Montana, rented an apartment, I had a great time.
Yeah.
Christy had a time. I think she had fun at times. But we would, I would get up every morning at about 5 a.m., open the golf course, because you could tee off at 5:30.
Yeah, because the sun, at that time of the year in that part of the country, like there's sun all day long almost.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'd open the golf course, and I'd set tee times and clean golf clubs and whatever I needed to do. And then about 4 o'clock, I got off every day and I would go fly fish. Or first, I got into a habit where I was playing about 9 holes of golf a day.
Yeah.
And then, I got okay. And then I would go fly fish the Flathead River that goes right by the park. And that was it. I mean, that was a great experience. That wound down in October of that year. We moved back to Dallas. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be in the restaurant management business. So the first real job I got was a CC's pizza manager. And I'll tell you something funny about the interview process. The guy interviews me. He says, "We've got a lot of great candidates, from schools like Texas A&M." And I was like, "You really don't know anything about the education system, do you?" I was like, I think Rice might be a little bit higher than that. No offense to A&M people, of course, but so I got a job being a pizza manager,
Mm-hmm.
a store manager, and I was a manager in training. And the CC's they put me in was on Buckner and Loop 12, which is not the best part of Dallas. It's pretty rough.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the end of the day. I had my first day of work. I went through work. The manager that was training me, he had me do everything in the store. I cleaned all the toilets. I wiped down all the tables. I made pizzas, not in that order, thankfully. But at the end of the day, he said, "Look, I want to comment on your pizza. You're center loading the ingredients." And I was like, "Okay, got it. We'll watch tape on that." So I went home. I looked horrible. It was during the O.J. Simpson trial, and my wife and her grandfather were watching the O.J. Simpson trial.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in, and I had just like flour and muck all over me. And I told my wife, I was like, "I'm not going back."
Yeah.
That was mulligan.
Yeah.
Give me a mulligan. So I called the guy next day. I said, "I quit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this. This is just a mistake." And so then I went and worked for our dad for a while, just kind of floating around, not really sure what to do. And I worked there for almost a year. And then I decided to go work for a bigger steel company.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a company called Reliance Steel and Aluminum. And I worked there for about a year, and I realized that I was never going to get where I wanted to get in life in that job.
Yeah.
And so then I started thinking about what is a sales profession I could get into where I could make the most money.
Mm-hmm.
And I determined that was either commercial real estate or pharmaceutical sales.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know anybody in pharmaceutical sales?
They're all beautiful.
They're all 25-year-old smoke shows.
Yeah.
And I knew I didn't want to compete with that. I couldn't compete with it, you know? So, I was comfortable in industrial because we'd grown up in it.
Yep.
You know, driving forklifts and loading trucks and sweeping floors. And so what I did is I just started driving around GSW because that's where Reliance was. I started driving around GSW at lunchtime, calling real estate signs, trying to get interviews.
Oh.
And I got a lobby interview with CB, which is basically, I was sitting in the lobby. The guy came out and he was like, "Who are you?
Yeah.
Let me look at your resume." No, thanks. And I didn't really know how to interview. Rice was a good school, but they didn't really teach you how to get a job.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like my son's at SMU, and I think they do a great job of that.
Yeah.
Very prepared. All the people we interview from SMU are very prepared for the interview. But anyway, I got with Henry S. Miller Commercial and I interviewed with this guy named David Dunn. Still in the business. He's still in the business. He's no longer with Henry S. Miller. And at the time, Henry S. Miller they were a significant company.
So I interviewed Nathan Denton the other day, and he told me the lineup at Henry S. Miller when he was there, and I was like, it's like an all-star team from, you know, like, I was like, because they don't really have a presence now in industrial, and it was, so anyways,
he was there. He was there at the same time I was. I think he worked over in Dallas. I know he did. And I think he started maybe 3 years after. He started a little bit after I did. I mean, we kind of crossed paths.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, that to your point though, man, like that was a pretty heavy hitting shop. It sounded like It
definitely was in Dallas. Now I was in Arlington, and they actually had a pretty good lineup too. They had David Dunn, Jeff Givens, who's with Transwestern now, has been in the business forever, very successful. A couple other people. And then right when I was leaving, they hired Trey Fricky, who's obviously had an incredible career. Anyway, I was at Henry S. Miller for about a year. And this is something I wrote down that I wanted to point out to young people is, you know, there's really like two things when you're getting going in this world. The first thing is you got to know what you don't want to do. And that was kind of what I learned at Reliance, you know, like I don't see a path here.
Yeah.
And then the thing I learned at Henry S. Miller is I needed a plan.
Yeah.
And I found myself one day in South Grand Prairie driving around, and I just didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing that day.
Yeah.
I'd make a lot of cold calls, but I didn't really know what they were supposed to look like, what information I was supposed to get, what I was supposed to do with it. David was a good leader, but I just didn't know what I was supposed to do next or what I was supposed to be doing. And I needed that security. And about that time, John Brewer, which I heard him talk about this on y'all's show. He said, "Hey, Matt Mittendorf left, and I think you'd be great in our Brook Hall office and running our Brook Hall submarket." And so I went that weekend. I remember this, and I drove around Brook Hollow, and I was like, "What a dump! It looks terrible, but I'll do it. I want to do it, you know, because it's all mine."
Yeah.
When I was working GSW, I was one of four guys, and we were tripping over each other all the time.
Yeah.
And I kind of got casted out to maybe Mansfield, which was hardly anything at that time. That's at least 25 years ago.
Yeah, it's still like an island out there in a way,
you
know.
And then I would kind of creep over to the mid cities and go down Highway 10, which is there's stuff over there. But
it's not synergistic though. It kind of has a break in it. Between,
it does, and you need to pair it with something else.
Yeah,
and so I was out there this week actually with our salesman. It's kind of working that part of the world, and same thing. You need more. And he's adding more, so he'll be fine. But anyway, but Brook Hall was going to be all mine, and I was excited about that. And before Mittendorf left, Bob Derzett had left the Trinity. So they were like, hey, we'll put you in Brook Hollow and then you can expand down the Trinity. And I was really excited to go there. It was the best company I ever interviewed with before. I could just sense it from the quality of people there. And the interview process, I knew they were making sure that you were the right guy.
Yeah.
So then I landed at Robert Lynn, and it was great.
Yeah.
They had a tremendous process, great plan. Tom Lynn was the owner of the company, and he was a great leader, very inspiring. George Dutter was he was that coach that you didn't like all the time, but you needed him.
Yeah.
And you actually, I mean, he groomed me up so much. Groomed me up so much. But George is a great he's a great mentor, and really helped me, get a process together. He's super process oriented. And so I really flourished over there. Made some great friends, Brewer, Medinas, Miller, Dave Peterson. And then of course you had Mr. Lynn in the background who was kind of quasi retired, but he still wanted to come in and hang out with the boys. And he would drag me to meetings, and they were great. I mean, whenever I needed a whoopee or a warm blanket, I was like, hey, Mr. Lynn, I got this presentation. Would you please go with me and just be in the room and bring that 75-year-old presence and experience. And I took him all the time, and I would go hang out with him a lot, just in his office. Just he'd be in there reading the Wall Street Journal or the Kiplinger Report.
Yeah.
And so, about 3 years in at Robert Lynn, Trammell Crow decided to sell off about 13 buildings in Brook Hollow, which I think was everything they had in Brook Hollow.
Yeah.
And there was one building I could afford.
Yeah.
And it was 9208, 9200 Chancellor Row.
So when Trammell Crow sold these buildings, these were the buildings that Trammell Crow had actually built and still owned since the late 50s, early 60s. And
that building was built in 55.
And he'd owned it ever since he built it, and it's time to let it go. And
they had a package.
Yeah. Okay.
And so this was right at the .com era.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I had started working with this guy named Dennis Lord and trying to sell him buildings. I may have sold him a building or just talked to him about selling a building prior to this package coming out. And so this building comes out. These buildings come out, and there's one I identify on Chancellor Row, and it's 22,500 feet. And I believe they wanted $310,000 for that building, which was $1,375 a foot, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. So I called the asset manager. I said, hey, I can't buy all of them, but can I make you an offer on this one? He was like, sure, you can make me an offer on one. So I go meet with George, come back. I say, okay, I can pay you. And being, also you need to know that it was offered at a 12 cap.
Yeah. It was probably slow moving at the time.
Yeah. But the building, I knew because I worked the market, I knew the building next door had just sold for $25 a foot. And they said, we want to sell this building for $1,375. So I would go home so I tried to go pitch it all over Brook Hollow to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was basically saying, why would I buy real estate when I can buy .com stock? There was a company called Red Hat, which was like one of the flameouts of the .com era. And everybody's making like 40% a day in Red Hat.
Yeah.
And so I go home and I whine to my wife, Christy, like, oh, I've got this great deal, but no one wants to buy it. And I don't know what to do. And she was like, well, why don't you buy it? And I was like, well, it's, I need at least $60,000, and that's about all we got.
Yeah.
That I've been earning from commissions. And so eventually, so I offered the guy $275. He said, no, it's $310.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'll pay you $295. He was like, no, it's $310. And finally I was like, okay, I'll pay you $310, which is still ridiculous if you think about it.
Oh, it's
ridiculous. Yeah. And so I got the building under contract. I was nervous. There used to be a bank in Brook Hollow called Brook Hollow Bank. And I showed them the deal and they said, this isn't a good deal. You don't know what you're doing. And I was like, maybe I don't, but it's a good deal. And then finally this one lady at Comerica Bank, I still remember her name, Tracy Limley, sweetheart. She gave me a loan at 8%.
Yeah.
And I put 20% down. It was a 12 cap, so it cash flowed really well.
Yeah.
And the tenant had about 4 years left on the lease. And they made tapestries for like the end of beds. It's like isn't that what it is? When it just like the little people don't even do this anymore.
I just remember the lady sitting there and just ripping cigs all day.
Yeah, that was back in the day when 8 out of your 10 cold calls, the decision maker just chain smoked.
Just chain smoking.
Chain smoke. And you just ate them.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah.
Well, it didn't bother you as much back then because it was kind of normal.
Right.
Like smoking, like smoke now is like, oh. Right. But like back then it was like, oh, it's another office.
Yeah. So anyway, that was kind of the beginning of me buying buildings. But, as far as brokerage, I worked at Robert Lynn a decade. I had my whole setup, and you know this, but my whole setup was I want to get to a certain positive cash flow so I can live the life I want to live.
Yep.
And when I was 25, I told myself, okay, if I can get $10,000 a month positive cash flow, and my goal was 35, I want to go coach high school football. And that was my whole mission.
Yep.
That was my whole mission. And so everything I did was to make that happen.
Yeah.
All the brokerage I did was to make that happen. And so I got there a little early, a little ahead of schedule. It's like a term I like to use.
Yeah.
Ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
And got there when I was about 33. And we wanted to live in a smaller town. And we kind of scoured North Texas and we picked Graham and we moved out there. And I still maintained my brokerage business while I was out there. I had a great teammate at that time, April Robert. And she's still with me in different capacity.
Yeah.
But at that time, she was more of an agent.
Yeah.
She was an agent. And so we moved out to Graham and I was exploring being a coach and I started mentoring at the high school and I was trying to thaw out from being a real estate agent and there's just something was off. I every time I wanted to put down my real estate books and pick up my coaching books, there wasn't a passion to do it.
Yeah.
And I was kind of force feeding it. And then I was mentoring at the Graham Junior High. And the specific moment I remember is I walked by the lunchroom where all the teachers were eating lunch. And it was a windowless room. And they were eating, the school lunch, probably like beef fritters and mashed potatoes. And I just was like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do it. So at that point, I was trying to figure out like, who am I now? And I decided that my career at Robert Lynn had kind of reached this point. And Robert Lynn, to their testament, I had told them this all up front, and they supported this crazy idea I had the whole time.
Because you produce.
Yeah, because I was a good producer.
Results remain supreme, Jeff.
Right. Sorry, I need a little clear the throat a little bit.
That's right. That's right. Get into the vegetables.
So they supported me, and I just realized that I probably done everything I could do there. And I just decided I'm gonna start my own shop.
Yeah.
And this was the time they joined NAI.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a supporter of that. And just for various reasons, because I the biggest reason was I thought Robert Lynn had the secret.
Yeah.
And the rest of the world needed us more than we needed them.
Yeah.
But they've done great.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously, you can definitely say they were right in that capacity. But I just didn't want to be. I just didn't want to be part of that for whatever reason, and I was kind of ready to evolve.
Yeah.
And so I started Mercer Company in effectively December of 2007.
Yeah.
And it was just April and I and a guy named Bob Kent who worked at Henry S. Miller.
Uh-huh.
And we officed down on Empire Central, which was 2 doors down from where Cantex started.
That building has spawned some really great real estate.
Right. And it's a dog.
Yeah.
It is a dog of a building.
Yeah. Well, so to kind of interject on something there, what's funny is one time I went and met with this guy and, he's like, hey, I want you to sell me buildings. And he's at Old Parkland. And he goes, why does Cantex get to see so many more buildings than I do? I go, because I can just walk by there and eat my lunch because they live in the market they want to be in. And I was like, you know what it's
sub
like?
Shop there.
Yeah. Oh, the sub shop
rap.
was good. Yeah. Yeah. The rap guy, he was awesome. So, yeah, that's two great real estate companies spawned out of that building.
Yeah. It's crazy. We were there, I think 3 years, maybe a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
And we were broken into 3 times.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Always on a holiday weekend on a Sunday night. Mm-hmm. So if you have a small business and it's a holiday weekend, you better get the locksmith over there and lock that baby up.
Yep.
Because I had 3 or 4 locks installed in the server room after the first break-in.
Yeah.
And that saved us on the second one.
Mm-hmm.
What would they ever do with the server? I don't know.
Meth.
But we were over there for 3 years. I think you started thinking about coming over there somewhat quickly.
Yeah.
And then,
what year did Mercer Company start? This is like,
so the official start date was January 1st of 2008.
Yeah.
And then the end of 2008, we watched the stock market just get cut in half.
Yes.
And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So, and then 2009 comes around, and late 2008, I hired Ryan Boozer. Mm-hmm. Ryan was selling playground equipment over off Northwest Highway.
Yep.
And he was a childhood friend of April.
Yep.
And a little bit of me, because he's from Irving as well.
No, me and him played football together forever, and you know, we all knew each other. Yeah. We all grew up together. We used to hang out all the time, and so
right. And Boozer had started, and he was starting his career, doing well, and then 2009 happened, and that was the toughest year I've ever had in business, for sure.
Yeah.
Leasing buildings on Carpenter Freeway. The first listing we ever got at Mercer Company was that building right next to Jack in the Box. I think it's 9200 Carpenter Freeway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice building.
Dennis Lord owned it for a while, right?
Had Time Warner. So there was 2 buildings.
Okay. Yeah.
The guy that hired me though was from California.
Okay. I know. Okay. Yes. I know.
Dennis Lord owned the one across the street.
Yeah.
Across the freeway.
Mm-hmm. That's like 9101.
Yes.
Yeah.
I sold Dennis that building for $24 a foot, by the way.
Very nice.
A different time.
Yeah.
A different time. Mm-hmm. So we're sitting there in 2009, and we get that listing, and I'm recommending $325 gross ask, and something south of there to lease it.
Yeah.
And I think we ended up leasing it for like $250 gross. That was our first listing. It was a nice listing.
And what would that building lease for today? 12 net on the freeway?
Maybe
10 net?
10 net.
Mm-hmm.
10 net's easy.
Mm-hmm.
12 net to the right. But, it's a great building, all air at the time. I don't know what's going on there now.
Yep.
All air, has a nice little hidden backyard.
Yep.
That little dock,
Yep.
This is the building right next to the Derby.
Yep. It's like a event company now owns it. And
like Goodies by Goodman type.
Yeah, something. And event company that building used to have had a huge showroom in it. Right?
Yes. Yeah. It had a huge lobby.
Yeah, huge lobby.
Like a rotunda.
Showroom. Yes. Yeah.
A word you don't hear anymore in real estate. But it had like a rotunda and a big lobby and then a big air conditioner warehouse. I think the history of that building it was originally owned by this guy or asset managed by this guy named Joe Dingman.
Oh, yeah, I know Joe.
Yeah.
I listed the building for Joe.
Yeah. Joe Dingman owned it, and I'd leased it before, and the listing agent was Rich Young.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we put a company in there called Ergo Candles about 04, 05. And they lasted, I think they honored their whole lease. Back then, if a tenant made it all their term of their lease, that was like a success.
Yeah. Yeah.
That there was a lot of mystery in that. Getting financials were different. But yeah, Joe owned that building. And I think he sold it to the guy in California.
Mm-hmm.
And Time Warner had a data
building, that data center in the back right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And anyway, back to Mercer Company. 2009 was horrible, but we made a little money.
Yeah.
And then I think you started in 10, right?
Started in 10.
Yeah.
October of 10.
And
when did Adam come on?
I feel like Adam came on, I want to say 12, but that seems too long of a gap between you and him.
I feel like he was there at the same, I feel like we started. Yeah. He started a little after me. I'll say that.
Yeah. So I hired Adam to kind of help me build the company.
Mm-hmm.
And take on new markets and train agents and just do all the stuff that I didn't have time to do while I'm, training agents it's a lot.
Well, I mean, you're going from broker to business owner, and it's a lot of division of your time, right? And at that time, being a business owner, you need revenue, and Jeff Mercer can generate revenue being a broker for the company.
Right.
So,
yeah. And for those of you out there that think about starting your own company, I'll tell you a little story about what it's like to be a business owner. In 2009, the lady that worked at our company, should I tell the story?
Yeah, tell it. This is awesome.
Okay.
Bella.
You might want to get the bleep. I'll try to not make any bad words, but it's a hard one to navigate. So the lady that we're in that building has a common area bathroom.
Yep.
And I feel like it's late in the day, like 4:30. Haven't got over the Knob Creek just yet.
Yeah.
Knob Creek was right next to the water bottles. In 2009, Knob Creek sat next to water bottles.
Yeah. Hey, I'll meet you over at the water cooler. I mean, the Knob Creek cooler.
Yeah. I think Boozer got in trouble with his wife for too much Knob Creek too. Anyway, so she comes over to my desk. She says, "Hey, there's some water coming out of the women's restroom." I said, "Okay. Well, did you call the property manager?" And she's like, "Not yet." And I said, "Well, maybe you should." She goes, "Well, actually, one of the toilets is clogged up." I said, "Is it? Okay. Well, did you try to unclog it?" She said, "I just don't think I can." And I said, "So you want me to do this?" And she goes, "I would really appreciate it if you would do it." So I'm in my, I was suit and tie. I was suit and tie. Remember, I was suit and tie every day.
Every day.
365, suit and tie, August,
Yep.
sweating bullets. So I'm suit and tie. I stomped back there through the soggy carpet into the leaking toilet, and I grabbed the plunger, and I take care of business, and I fix the problem. And I go back to my desk, and I never make eye contact with that lady again for that day. Maybe that whole week. That was a whole week of non-eye contact. And that's what it's like to own your own business, people.
Yeah.
Because it's not all cash and checks and breaking necks. It's
ownership has its privileges, right?
Yeah. So that was a moment that's probably like top 5 Mercer Company moment in my mind. So anyway, we got through 09, 10 started to get better and just got better. And then we hired more people, taking on more markets. And here we are today, I guess.
How many agents is Mercer Company now?
I think we're hovering around 20.
Yeah.
We have 20. We're, we have an office in Dallas. That's HQ on Stevens Freeway. That building, when we started the company, I put it under contract to put the company in there day one.
Yeah.
For $55 a foot, $1.1 million. And I just chickened out.
Yep.
And I realized it was just too much at that time. But I knew that's where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I just thought it would be such a presence to have that location.
Yeah.
And fast forward till 17 or 18, we ended up buying the building for about double that, more or less. Yeah. Which still really happy with that purchase.
Yeah. It's funny. It's when people are like, "Oh, y'all in that building?" I go, "Yeah, I've leased it twice and sold it once." You know?
I mean, how many buildings have you traded a couple times?
Oh, numerous. It's I always like to tell people, I'm like, that Brook Hollow area, like Regal Row and Mockingbird? And they go, yeah. I go, yeah, I've probably leased and sold every building twice down there.
Yeah.
Like, it's right. Just you run that lap. And but yeah, that building, it's a marketing piece, right? Like a lot of people know that building now. And I don't know if you remember this, but David Gwynn calls me one day. He goes, "I just, he'd already left Mercer Company at the time. And he's like, "I just had a meeting with Harlan Crow and he told me they're putting a Top Golf across the street from that building." So I called you. I was like, "They're putting a Top Golf across the street. You better buy that building. You'll fucking regret it."
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh yeah, I'll buy it."
Right. I do remember that. And it kind of worked in a way. That was one of the things that pushed me back there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I will tell you what I've kind of picked up on is a lot of people know where we're at now.
Oh yeah. They know the brand. They know the name.
Right.
Like,
yeah, it's I feel like it's worked. When you have 300,000 cars going by every day,
yeah,
it's something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a lot of, I've heard of you before.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, you're right there by Cavender's.
Yeah. You know where Cavender's is? Oh yeah, you're the building next door with the M on it, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So, well, how about something you didn't really touch on that I think people need to know about is that, right now is a very tough time in brokerage, right?
It is. This is a down market.
This is a down market, and a lot of younger guys have never experienced that. And talk about when you started in brokerage, you didn't just broker. What else were you doing at night?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't touch on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great thing to talk about. So, when I was at Harris Miller, I wasn't making much money. I made my first year at Harris Miller, I made 32 deals, and I did not make one fee over $10,000. So I was leasing super small spaces over on Galleria and GSW, which I think is funny. I think we sold
have the listing. We have the listing. Building. We have the listing on Galleria now.
So full circle there. But so my wife had a really good job at a company called EDS.
It was Ross Perot's company, right?
Yeah. Huge company, campus, corporate America.
Yep.
But I was struggling, and we had 2 cats, and one cat got hit by a car and kind of hobbled its way home.
Did he need some tiny little parts from El Paso?
He did. That exactly like the Seinfeld.
Yes.
He needed the tiny instruments.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, "Can we get this cat fixed?" And I was like, how can you say no to that? And I was like, "Well, honey, are you willing to get a second job to do this?" And she was like, she just kind of didn't say anything. I was like, "Honey, I'm willing to get a second job to do this."
Yeah.
So we got the cat surgery was about $3,500 that we didn't have.
Yeah.
And so to supplement my income, our income that year, I would wait tables 2 nights a week at Chili's in Grapevine, and then all weekend.
Yeah.
So all weekend I would pick up both shifts on the weekend. I work a double, Saturday and Sunday. And I mean, talk about something that burns something in you is something like that. And so I worked there for about 8 months, and I remember some of my high school buddies coming up there, and eating, and they were like, "You went to Rice?" They were kind of taunting me, and I was like, "Oh, well,
we'll see, motherfucker.
We'll see how this ends. We'll see how this ends."
Yeah,
I love that. I remember, I always, you need that chip on your shoulder. So, so I worked there, and I remember watching the Super Bowl there at the Chili's because I had to work that day.
Yeah.
And, of course, watching the Super Bowl is always huge to me.
Yeah.
We always, as a family, that was a big day.
Yeah.
But that Super Bowl, I think it was the Packers and the Broncos. And it was Brett Favre and John Elway. So just some icons.
Yeah.
And I would run the bar between dropping off, an old timer with cheese and a chili dipper or something. And I would watch a play or two, and then I would go get another order and fill up some lemonade. And so I did that. And, I paid that credit card bill off.
Yeah.
And when I paid it off, I was like, okay. And then my brokerage career started getting better and started making more deals. And then that all kind of happened about the time I went to Robert Lynn is when the whole Chili's thing kind of came to an end.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a lot of work.
Well, I think people need to hear that story because I think there's a lot of young brokers out there that probably right now are not making any money. Maybe especially like investment sales brokers and stuff like that. And don't think it's beneath you to go work a second job right now if you want to stay in this career.
Absolutely. I mean, hustle.
Yeah. I think there's some kind of sentiment where people are like, oh, I don't want to do that because I want to go party on the weekend.
Right.
But like, that's not where the secret sauce is made.
No.
So, I don't know. I just, it's, I was very fortunate to, in a way, be raised by you to essentially, but you've kind of always had this drive in you to win, and where do you think that came from? Like,
well, I mean, I love playing football.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was, I think, our dad was into it, and I wanted to, do good for him.
Yeah.
It's a natural instinct of a kid. And then I just had a lot of drive. I don't know. I think it just was in me.
Yeah.
That was something I wrote down here is that, how many times have you heard an agent say, hey man, this isn't personal.
Yeah.
And I'm exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm play with passion. I mean, you young guys out there, you've got to play with passion.
Yeah.
And if you're not playing with passion, you're in the wrong game.
Right.
So this is personal.
Yeah.
if some dude beats you out there, takes your 25 G's or 50, now that's old school, right?
Yeah, 25 G's is like a 10,000 foot renewal.
Yeah, it's putrid. If he takes your $100,000 fee, you got to be pissed about it. But I tell you, was talking about it this morning. I had breakfast with Kevin Tisdale, Kevin Phillips, and I was telling, that cassette series, that
The Making of a Champion,
Making of the Champion, that thing is gold,
dude.
And the habits in that thing are gold.
I can remember. I just remember So what you're talking about is our dad had this cassette series called The Makings of a Champion, and he would put that in. Was it cassette tapes or was it an 8-track? Okay,
no, it's cassette tapes. Okay, I have it.
No, you got it right. Okay,
I have it. It's at the condo.
Okay, so
DPH.
Yep. He would play that on the way to our IBFA games,
right?
And it's like I would remember driving down O'Connor and listening to that, and then taking a left.
And by the way, you were in the back seat of the truck, on the bench,
on the bench,
not the back seat, in the what do you call that? The bed.
Yeah,
I used
to ride in the bed of the truck all the time. Like that was
that's what you do in South Irving.
That's right. But like listening to The Makings of a Champion, passing Sawyer Sporting Goods, and going down there, and I remember him. The one thing that I always remember in that tape series was he talks about there was a tennis player. I can't remember his name, but he goes he would forego the cookies during Christmas time and eat cottage cheese.
I know who that was.
Yeah, who was it?
That was Roger Staubach.
Was it Roger Staubach?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Roger Staubach would say, I knew if I had the cottage cheese and not the cookies, that I was going to win the Super Bowl.
That's right. That's right.
But it was Roger Staubach.
I just remember cottage cheese and cookies, and it was just like it was that decision.
Which is hilarious because is cottage cheese good for you?
Well, I guess it's got a pretty good high protein content, right?
Isabella says yes.
Yeah.
Crush it. Curd only.
Yeah.
Good to Great.
Yeah.
You know what his point in that book is?
What?
The better marathon athletes, they rinse their cottage cheese.
Oh.
They rinse
all the fat off of it and just eat the curd.
That's what makes you good to great.
The pure cure.
So he must have listened to Making a Champion.
He must have.
Okay.
But that's we need to get that dubbed down to a digital thing because I don't think you can find it digitally. Like
I think if you made an app out of that, it would be such a great mental hardening thing for young kids. It has everything you need to be a great competitor.
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of it came from that, and just let's face it, our dad was like super passionate about everything he did. Working out, sports, working out,
karate.
So I just a lot of that passion. A lot of passion. In everything you do.
Well, I remember one thing Dad would always say is, if you're not fired up with enthusiasm, then you should be fired with enthusiasm.
Absolutely. Right?
Yeah. You should
right?
Be. Like it's he would always say that, and I was like, yeah, man, if you're not like waking up and coming to work with your hair on fire, then you either need to get out or someone needs to get your ass out, And
you should feel that whenever you do.
Yeah.
If you're in a job and you don't feel that, then you're not in the right place.
Right. Right. You're not. You're not. You're kidding yourself and you're kidding the people you're working for.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Makings of a Champion was great. Another moment in our life that I think we will always just remember is, we would work out twice a day. We would work out, when it was training for football. When we were training for football every summer, we would work out in the morning. We would lift in the mornings and we would run in the afternoons. And we ran no matter what. And one day it was like the storms of last week or the past couple of weeks. And we were like, we're running. And we were pulling tires in those kind of storms.
Well, and so that philosophy was in Making the Champions.
Yeah.
There was Making him a Champion. There was a pitcher that told the story in there that he was supposed to pitch that day, but for whatever reason, they pitched someone else. So when the plane landed in, I believe, New York City, he went to the stadium and he pitched a full game that night.
Yeah.
And they were like, "What are you doing?" He was like, "Well, this is my day to pitch. I'm not going to miss it."
Yeah.
And so that mindset was always there. Like, it didn't matter if it's raining or whatever. We're supposed to be running tonight.
Yeah. It's amazing how you can let things creep into your mind like that. And like, it's usually the people that can just be like, I'm still going to do this. That don't let the excuse of some situation overcome their desire to do what they said they wanted to do, you know? And, it's like when your alarm goes off in the morning, you're like, oh shit, I don't want to go work out. Kind of want to sleep.
Absolutely. Maybe best said on that topic. My last football coach, Ken Hatfield, we had a team meeting, or it was after a practice, whatever. Where everyone's kneeling down, ready for a barbecue sandwich or whatever. And he said, "Guys, I'm just going to say this, and y'all can leave." He said, "People find time to do the things they really want to do."
Yeah,
that was it.
I still use that quote today.
Yeah,
like people find
you will.
And I think you added another section to it. I think you said people find the time and the money to do the things they want to do. Like
right.
Yeah, like people that owe you a debt, they find a way not to pay that, but like they find a way to go out and party. Probably
exactly, for sure.
But no, I think. I think the big thing we learned was the discipline of having a desire to succeed in a sport was a very important driver for our overall success, right? And I think that's kind of a real reason that's kind of the profile you hire as an agent too. And I'll tell you what, I think a lot of other companies have adapted that same philosophy to like try to hire a collegiate athlete because they're a competitor, right? And but like I said, I was very fortunate to just kind of, you drug me around everywhere. You'd let me participate in anything you were doing and allow that. And even with the surgical tubing,
You gonna tell that story?
Yeah, that's a good story. I want to tell that story.
We're going to get this one out.
Yeah, this is funny. So, Jeff comes back from Rice. This is like after your freshman year or your sophomore year. And you're like, "Hey, I figured out how we can learn how to run faster."
Well, this is what no one remembers. But back then, there was no speed school.
No.
There was no workout place. It was a gym.
And the coaches weren't even allowed. Like Barrett is in football right now 4 days a week for 3 hours. With his high school coaches.
That did not happen.
That was not allowed. They would open the weight room from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And good luck,
the participation rate was like 5%.
Yeah.
But what I would do is I would buy the Muscle and Fitness magazine.
Yeah.
And in the back of the magazine, they had these ads for all these quirky ideas.
Yeah.
And that's where we bought the parachutes.
Yep.
And that's where the surgical tubing came from.
So Jeff comes back. He goes, "Hey, we got to go buy this surgical tubing. We're going to make this apparatus." I'm like, "Okay." So we go up to this little medical supply place right on it was on MacArthur and 183.
I think it's still there.
I think it's still there, right in that shopping center where Crystal's Pizza was and all that stuff. And we go in there. I'm like, I don't know what we're doing, but we're buying this stuff. So you buy this big reel of surgical tubing, and you have this harness, and then we have a weight belt and all this stuff, and you put this thing all together. And you're like, "Listen, what we're going to do is one person's going to pull you out. And then you're going to wait. And then whenever you get to a certain, I think we were going to 30 or 30 yards.
We're running 40-yard dashes.
We were running 40-yard dashes. So the person pulling the surgical tube would roll out to 40 yards. And then they would say, "Go." and then you'd start running. And the whole idea was that the surgical tubing would pull you faster. I mean, you were running like you were flying because
it slingshot you out.
It slingshot you, and the surgical tubing's going faster. You're running faster, so it's training your muscles to run faster than they have the ability to normally run. So we would do this every couple days a week, right. Depending on one day we're pulling tires, one day we're doing tube. And so one day we're doing the tubing, and I think Ryan was pulling it for me.
Yeah.
And Ryan's pulling it out, and then there's all these cheerleaders walking over across the football field.
Yeah, we had some groupies.
Yeah. And
had a tank top on. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there, and I didn't hear Ryan say go. And so he got stretched out further.
Okay.
And I was like, damn, I better go.
I thought you were holding one side and one of us was in the middle.
No. It was Ryan was pulling it. He had the harness over his back and he was walking out, and I had it tied around my waist. And this is tied around your waist with the surgical tubing right on top of you, like right where at your waist.
Belt,
right where your belt is, right?
Yeah. Right.
And these cheerleaders are coming over, and I didn't hear Ryan say go. Maybe I was looking at the cheerleaders. I don't know what I was doing. And so he's past 40 yards. Well, it stretched the tube a little too far. And as soon as I was like, man, I better go. And I took a step. And as soon as I took a step, the tube broke on his end. And it just came back at me. However fast that tube recoiled, it hit me right in the balls.
It was amazing. I mean, the little groupies were just giggling.
Oh, God.
And we were just like, oh.
Oh, my gosh. I was like dying from pain and dying from just pure embarrassment.
Never forget that.
Oh, man. That was such a funny day.
We were on the JV football field.
Yep. It was Cindy. I remember Cindy Kim was there.
Okay.
I was like, oh, that's Cindy Kim. I know her. And
okay. She was definitely one of the cheerleaders.
Yeah. And man, I just got whacked in the nuts in front of a bunch of chicks.
And you were 5 years younger,
yeah.
So it had to be super embarrassing, right?
Yeah. I was like probably like in 8th grade or something. And so it's like super awkward, embarrassing.
For sure. So. For sure.
But no, it was good. So, okay. So we talked about a group of cassette tapes that totally changed your life.
Yep.
So I got a present for you.
Oh, wow.
Speaking of cassette tapes, open this thing up.
Oh, wow. I didn't. This is totally unexpected.
Yeah. Watch your veggies.
Isabel, I know where that's at all times. Oh, the man.
Yeah.
The man. Now, is this yours?
No, I found it. I bought two of them. I bought me one and I bought you one.
Quick start.
Yeah.
Oh, can we watch this tonight?
Yeah.
Can we start over?
Yeah. Isn't that awesome? Like, that was so.
This is it's a great story.
Oh yeah, yeah. So this is solid gold. So this is the no money down Carlton Sheets, learn how to buy real estate step-by-step manual and cassette tape library. Yep. That guy.
This is live action, folks.
Oh yeah. This thing was, I mean, we'd watch. I feel
He's
like
a mentor.
Oh yeah. I feel like we were watching like the NBA finals and this would come on afterwards or something during the summer. And
here, I know I'm messing up the mic playing with that. I think we were watching this in that janky house you'd rented in Euless.
Mm.
And you had just had a 6 whiskey night at Club Clearview in Deep Ellum.
Yep.
And crawled home. And we woke up on the sofa. I think I was with you. I was crawling around with you.
Yeah.
And this infomercial came on.
Yeah. He's sitting like on a
Florida beach.
Someone's interviewing him and he's just telling him how he's
right. And what else did he have? Sorry, Tammany and Christy, but what did he have?
He had a very young wife.
He had 2 young ladies in bikinis sitting next to him. He was living the dream.
He was. Oh man. But God, so we were like, man, let's buy that. We bought it.
We bought it. We were like, I want to do that.
We were disciples, man. We were Carlson Sheet disciples. Like
we got the. So when was I and Henry S. Miller doing that?
You probably were. It's like, so this is something funny I wanted to bring up earlier. It was like, I remember when you were at Robert Lynn and I saw your business card one day when I was at your house and I was like, dude, he's the vice president of this company?
Yeah.
Like he's number 2 already?
Yes, Jeremy, I've made it.
Speaking of real estate titles,
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, that was 2001. I lived in that house 2001. So that was probably right at about that time. You're still on Cheeksburger probably.
Right.
And
yeah, I might have come over there to clean up your front lawn after whatever happened that night.
Yeah.
But Carlton, I mean, talk about Carlton Sheets. I mean, he was no money. So the bit was no money down.
Yep.
Buying residential homes primarily.
Pretty much, yeah.
And he was the creative side.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think, I honestly think the name of the course didn't do it justice.
Right.
Because I think people,
like, what does that mean?
They feel like it's a scam, but it was really, hey, here's a real creative way to think.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, there's a story in there he tells about a guy that like harvest all the timber to like pretty much be no money down in a deal because he's like, I can buy this deal. Yes, I'm going to pay that money, but I'm going to harvest this timber. I'm going to get all my cash back. So I'm no money down in the deal. And, but it was just, it was
all about cash flow.
Cash flow. That's right. And, but it was just, it helped our creativity,
Totally did.
Yeah.
I mean, it was about deal making.
Yep.
Owner financing, which I know you're huge on.
Oh yeah.
He was a huge owner financing guy.
Yep.
He introduced us to the idea of, the interest rate on the loan can vary based on the sell price, which makes total sense when you think about it. Just all sorts of creative ways to find deals and make deals.
It's, there's, and what I like to, what we call it now in the finance bro world is just, he'd pull different levers, pull these different levers to make things work a little differently, but they make the deal work,
Yes.
But, I mean, we were disciples of that system and, that's what we started buying houses, right?
We did.
We did. Cause that's what we could get into is like, we could probably afford to buy a house, and
what was that one house we bought in Granbury?
That was a home run, man.
What was
hard to handle? Hard to handle. So we bought this house in Granbury. You bought you were living in Preston Hollow at the time, right?
Yeah. So I lived on Northmore, and I was at Robert Lynn, and I'd been at Robert Lynn for 3 or 4 years. So I was really starting to get going.
Yeah.
And I think I owned my first building at that point. And my next door neighbor knew that I was a guy that kind of was in real estate and bought buildings. And he walked over and he said, hey, my dad's in bad shape. He owns a house at Pecan Plantation. And he also owns 2 lots out there. And would you be interested in buying those for $50,000? And I said, yes, I would.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay, cool. When do you want to go see him? I said, I don't need to see him.
Yeah.
I don't need to see him.
Yeah.
I go, I'm going to do this.
Well, you knew Pecan Plantation because you'd been out there before didn't Ryan, you and Ryan?
Yeah,
and
Ryan's
Mike
family had a house out there. And after Tom Ling, Isabella's dad, put us out of the playoffs in football.
Yep.
Isabella, your dad did that to me. Ruined my dream.
He's cooked meals for you ever since and trying to reciprocate.
Yes. He's made up for it. I'm over it. But he did do that to me before he knew me.
Yeah.
And so we went to go sulk
at
Pecan Plantation.
Yeah.
So, but yes, we bought that house.
Yeah. It's a gated community. It's a nice gated community.
Oh,
it's like
nice.
a golf course gated community.
Right.
Yep.
And we were kind of on the wrong end of Pecan Plantation.
Yeah.
We're on the non-river side.
South side.
South side. We always go south side.
Mm-hmm.
We bought that house for $50,000. We fire sold those lots off.
Yeah. So that's that's some real estate right there.
That is some real estate.
So there was a home builder, right? He was like a local builder, wheeler, dealer guy. And he's like, I want to buy these lots. I want to buy these lots off you. So we were like, okay, we're going to go look at this house where we bought, I think. I think we bought it sight unseen, or we maybe went down there at some point.
Yeah, I had to put like a massive earnest money deposit, like $800.
Yeah. And so we're like, okay, we're going to go look at her house. And I was talking to him. I was like, hey, he wants to like meet us and buy these lots. And you're like, okay, we'll quit claim deed them to him. I was like, I don't even know what that means, but that sounds cool.
Right. And I barely knew that term from Trek class or whatever.
So we literally quit claim deeded him properties at the courthouse. Mm-hmm. And we just like, hey, here you go. Here's quit claim deed. Give us some. He gave us a cashier's check. And we gave him a deed, and that was closing. That was closing.
There was no title policy.
No, there's no title policy.
Maybe like $2,500 for those little lots.
I think $2,500.
We had to get rid of them because they had a HOA fee on them that was kicking our butt.
Yeah, we didn't want to pay it, and we didn't want to build a house on it or anything. It was like, yeah, you can have these, man, and we'll plow it into this other thing. So. But yeah, so, and then, he left. It's so funny. Well, I mean, this isn't funny, but like, this is what happens a lot. We've seen this in houses when children take over the house of their parents, they leave you all the contents to throw away.
Oh, I
remember how much stuff.
There's another home we used to own.
Oh yeah. I still have all the relics from that. So we're going to talk about that here in a second.
Oh,
but, he left all the stuff in there, so we had to clean out all the stuff. And man, we got some dude to do it for us. I don't even remember who we got to do it for us, but then we got it to where it was rentable, and we had a tenant show up.
A little paint carpet.
Yeah, a little paint carpet, a little make ready, and we had this family show up as a tenant, and the wife shows up. And she's wearing a Slayer t-shirt.
And you were like, I like this.
I was like, Rain and Blood. Let's go.
She's on my playlist.
Yeah. And so we called her Hard to Handle.
I think she had a shirt.
Yeah. She might have had. That might have been the second time.
I think
with the cig just like hanging from her lip.
Yeah.
Just
I think the second time we went out there to like, I don't know, fix a water leak somewhere.
Yeah.
She had on Hard to Handle, and that's where you coined that term.
Mm-hmm. And but we leased it to them. And
you remember when the septic tank broke?
Oh, the septic tank broke, and we were like, "Oh my god, we gotta fix." It was like $7,000, and we were like, "Fuck, we don't have this money."
we didn't have that money.
We didn't have the money. I mean, we figured it out somehow. I remember because the company that fixed it was Maui Wastewater. Like I remember who I had to like go hire to fix that septic. And,
well, what I remember is you found someone to replace it.
Yeah.
You were kind of the de facto property manager.
Right.
Like that was your part of the ownership deals. Like, okay, I found the deal. Let's split the down payment.
Yeah.
But you got to be the property manager.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I found someone to replace the septic tank for $7,000. And then a few days passed and you called me and said, okay, well, I found this other guy. This other guy said for $800, he'll get in the septic tank and patch it.
That's right. That's right.
And I was like, what?
Who wants to get in a pool of shit for $800?
And you were like, I think we probably should try it. And I was like, I think for $800, I just want to see someone get in a septic tank. So I think that's what we did.
I think that is what we did. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we saved some cash flow.
A little cash flow. Put that back in our pocket.
Yeah. And so we rented it to Hard to Handle. It felt like 18 months.
And then they wanted to buy it. They bought it, right? I feel like they were going to buy it, and I think we got Lewis Ballady involved.
Yeah,
your old Rice football teammate, and Lewis was a mortgage broker, and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna get hard to handle. I'm gonna give him a loan," and then they wouldn't get him his shit or something like you know. It's like, "Hey, can you give me your tax return?" And they're like, "Yeah, stuff," and so then we had to like kick him out, right? Like
we kind of did,
yeah.
We had to push him out,
yeah. So we had to like get him out, terminate their lease, and then we just listed with the residential broker and sold the house.
Right. I think we was like 135.
Yeah. We bought it for 50. I think we made $85,000 on that deal.
And that was a Carlton Sheets special.
That was a Carlton Sheets special. Mm-hmm. That it's funny. I've seen some people be like, "Oh, there's no way you can do no money down in real estate." Nah, I think that's bullshit. I think you just got to have a better sniffer. Like you got to be able to find good real estate deals. Like that's if you do a half-ass job at it, yeah, you'll never have a no money down deal. But like I mean, we've pulled off multiple ones where that it's happened. So.
I think you could do it.
Oh, I think you can totally do it.
I think you could start again and do it.
Yeah.
I really do. I don't want to start again and do it.
No.
But
I mean, I've done it in land now. Like me and Isabella's uncle did it. We put a 200-acre piece of land in our contract, and we 4-way simultaneously closed and ended up with. And we got a $200,000 check at closing, and we owned 51 acres. Like,
and you really put no money down, right? Because you did all that.
Yeah, we did all that, and we sold it off and like pieced it all out. But like, I mean, it's that's what it's funny. So like, I remember one day, where did we go? We went to like the Virgin Hotel and had lunch. I think this is like 21. You're like, what do you want to do, man? I was like, I just want to fucking buy buildings, dude. You're like, then go buy buildings, man. I was like, okay. And I was like, I just want to go make like Slayer, Assassin, like buy real estate deals, Mm-hmm. And I think it's so. I think it really comes down to like talking about like focus, right? Like it's what you get what you focus on, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why you were such a great broker, is because like, I mean, you did you and Keenan remind me of the same person, right? Like very just mow the lawn. Like you're never gonna miss a number on that action group every week.
Right. It was check off every activity, mm-hmm. Check off every to do.
Yep.
Go make your calls. Yep. Drive your availables.
Call your TIPs.
Right.
Just push them forward, all those things. And I was pretty good at that. I would kind of sporadically go off, and that's kind of my personality. Yeah.
Yeah. You did everything you were supposed to do.
Yeah. But I would always kind of go on these wild ass goose chases, like you were talking about earlier, the 50-foot clear TIP. I would chase some like unicorn deals, right? And every now and then they pan out. Most of the times they don't,
Right.
And
right.
But
that gave you a wide knowledge of how to make things happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
That creativity.
Well, and it also gave me a wide knowledge of like eventually to like say no to some shit. Because I'm like, I've seen this situation. Like, I ain't fucking with this.
Yeah,
like,
low odds.
Yeah, low odds, right? And what was it? At one point we started putting like a metric together. It was like, okay, if you're gonna work this deal, mm-hmm. and it's out of your market,
right,
and you don't have a signed exclusive,
yeah, it has to be 4 times your.
It has to be a 4x.
That was a Spellman. That was the Spellman equation. So he kept coming to me, saying, "Well, I don't have control." Mm-hmm. And the guy wants something out of my market. And I said, well, let's just monetize this.
Yeah.
And it was basically in your market and you have control.
Yep.
You would take a minimum deal.
Yep.
Maybe it was $5,000.
Fair. Yeah. $5,000 to $15,000.
$5,000 fee.
Yep.
In your market, no control. That's a double.
Yep.
$10,000 fee. Mm-hmm. Out of your market, with control, still needs to be 3x your normal. So 15,000. And finally, out of your market, no control, needs to be 4x your normal deal.
Yeah.
And that seemed like a pretty good barometer.
Yeah.
On how to work deals.
No, it was. It was very easy to like. I just remember you like came in action group one day and you told us that, and it was like, okay, cool. I need to look at deals this way.
Right.
And no, that's positive, right? That's what Spellman would say. That's positive. I had him on here like last week. It was so funny. I was like, that's positive, Spellman.
Right. I'm not going to make you an info.
No. But it's like, I remember, it's so funny. I got a lead handed to me. I don't know. It's probably 2 years ago, and they're like, "Hey, we want 100,000 feet for a pickleball court." And I was like, I don't believe in pickleball, bro. And I was like, hey, man, we had this call with them, and like, I was like, it's funny. I called Wiggs, and I was like, okay, you're very good at like figuring out the weird deal,
right?
But here's my thing on this one. One shot. We send this guy one shot options, and if he doesn't bite on anything, we don't work on this shit anymore.
Right.
And
if he doesn't go tour, if he doesn't, if you bring him the dream building and he doesn't look at it,
he ain't real.
It's not real.
It happens a lot. Like, you ain't real. Like, back to the 50-foot clear,
right.
Yeah. So this guy, so the story on this is Jeff you would meet with me and be like, go over all my TIPs, and you would say, okay, what does this guy need? And all this. I was like, this guy needs a 50-foot clear building. And you're like, you're wasting your fucking time on this. Mm-hmm. Well, it just randomly appeared that the Dallas Morning News building in South Dallas had a 50-foot clear section in the building. And
is that where the presses were?
That's where the presses were. And then they just shut down their Plano location too.
And did they have those large presses like that go stories up?
I don't think,
because the Wall Street Journal building,
Wall Street Journal has them on
Regal Row had a 3-story press.
Yeah, I call that like the prison. That looks like a prison in there, right? Because if you look up, it was like it looked like cells and like a prison and all that stuff. And I took that to him and I was like, hey, this building has 25,000 feet of 50-foot clear. It's 200,000 foot building. You have to take it. But it says 50-foot clear. He's like, oh, that ain't going to work. I was like, oh, you ain't fucking real. Like, you wouldn't even go look at this? Like, you just asked for a unicorn and I brought you one. You don't want to go look at it?
Right.
And then it's funny, the Wall Street Journal building, man, what an anomaly. I actually leased that thing. I actually put someone in there for 6 months on it.
I felt like that building was always a temporary home of people.
It was.
Companies or whatever.
So I remember one day Stephen Lear calls me and he goes, hey, Jeremy, let's go look at this building. And we walk it and all this stuff, and I bought this building, and Stephen Lear paid cash for everything, right? And I said, he goes, what do you think I should do with it? I go, Stephen, I think if you could sell this and make $100,000 and get the fuck out, I would sell it. He didn't want to sell it though, but he didn't want to fix it either.
No,
it was like,
no, how do those guys do that never fix anything, but they
make so much money somehow?
I'm going to try it.
Do nothing.
I'm going to try it one day.
Just do not Slocum.
Let's just do nothing. We're doing nothing.
We're doing nothing.
Yeah. Exactly. That's going to be my shot.
That's what Don Nobler did, right?
Rest his soul.
Rest in peace. Don Nobler did nothing. Man,
did nothing.
Man, how upsetting for him right now. He would be like on cloud 9 going to Mavs NBA Finals games.
Totally. He was Mavs man.
That was my first job out of college. You got me my first job with Don Nobler.
I remember going over to Leslie Street and you looked like a mess. And you were like, I just cleaned out these bathrooms. And I was like, thanks for doing that. I hope we lease it. And Don's going to give you a check for like $37.
Yeah. It's so funny when I was
but you were happy to do it.
Oh, no, I was fine. I was like, oh, man, I'll do whatever. Like, I need to make some money. And I just remember I was like, hey, Don, I got a job. He was like, what? I was like,
like you betrayed him?
I was like, Don, I got a college degree. I didn't this wasn't like the plan.
Yeah, wasn't custodial services.
No, not at all. And so anyways, okay. So this is something I love to always ask on here. Like, what was a deal that you did that you were like when you always think back and like, what's a pinnacle deal for you?
Well, the Pinnacle. Not. I don't know if it's Pinnacle.
Well, it doesn't have to be, right? It could be like just a memorable deal.
And you know this deal. Early on in my career, I'm cold calling. I'm on Ambassador Row. I call this company called Rusco Packaging.
Yep.
And Russ Wallace is there, and he's a salesman. I mean,
he's an OG salesman.
Oh, he is.
Yeah. That
guy could come in here right now and just make it happen.
Yeah.
And so I go calling Russ, and Russ goes, "Yeah, Jeff, I need about 70,000 feet." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, Russ, the building next door is 68,000 feet.
Yeah.
And it's for sale." He goes, "Yeah, I know that." He goes, "I want to buy it. I've talked to them a little bit, but here's the deal. You got to sell my building first." And I was like, "I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it." And I said, "Okay, Russ, I want to be your broker on that deal, but I'm going to go sell your building." So then I'm running around, and I run into a guy named Jerry Leatherman. He owns a company called Dallas Pump.
Yeah, it's Dallas Pump and Supply.
Pump.
Yep.
Jerry Leatherman. And I think Jerry retired to Colorado. But anyway, Jerry goes, I took him over to see the Rusco building. He was like, "It's perfect. Perfect."
Yeah.
He goes, "Only one thing. You got to sell my building first." I was like, "What the heck? What the heck? I've solved the riddle.
Yeah.
Now I got to solve it again." So I run around for another 4 weeks, and I run into a guy named Buddy Dean. Buddy Dean.
Yeah.
I think the name of this company was Welding Supply, GD Welding Supply, something like that.
GDS Welding Supply?
GDS Welding Supply?
Yeah.
Something like that. And I showed him Jerry Leatherman's building. And he's like, "It's perfect." Well, good news. Buddy Dean didn't own his building. He leased it.
So he didn't force you to sell his building too.
Yes. And he was at 2833 Irving Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a lease coming up in about 3 months. So on one day, we sold all 3 buildings. And I can tell you where I was when I closed that deal. I was in South Arlington looking for another building for some other client. And I got the phone call, my flip phone.
Yeah.
And by the way, back then you had to 400 minutes cost you $400 a month.
Golly.
For a flip phone. And I got the call from the title company. They said, "Hey, all 3 deals just closed, and you made $99,000." And think about that. I sold a 70 in Brook Hollow, a 30 in Brook Hollow, and then a 12,000 square foot building in the Trinity.
Yeah,
Design
Trinity.
District.
Yeah,
which back then that was the Trinity. It was not the Design District.
Yeah,
and so all 3 of those deals happened at one time, and I was just like, man, I solved the riddle.
Yeah, that's a trifecta.
It was, and then I did that one more time about 1 year later.
Yeah,
I sold 3 buildings at one time. Very similar scenario.
That's nuts.
And so that really, even though it was super early on, that deal, I don't think I could ever repeat that. I mean, it was just incredible.
Yeah.
So
so the Rusco building on it's so funny. I've never done a deal on Ambassador Row.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
I've come so close, but I've never done one there. Every other street in Brook Hollow, done them. Never Ambassador Row. I don't know why. Yeah,
Mr. Lynn used to tell me that, and this is in 1997. He's like, if you just work Ambassador Row, you probably can make $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Now that number's like what, probably $400,000 a year.
Sure.
So yeah, there's big deals happening. But yeah,
that's like the main of Brook Hollow.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. That's where all the companies end up.
Yeah, like that's how you mature in Brook Hollow.
Mm-hmm.
You mature over from Chancellor or Diplomacy, and you end up there. Okay, well, let's talk about persistence, because you have another deal I want to talk about, and it's hung up in the cabin, and it's always a marker.
Yeah, that's the other three-way cell.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other three-way cell.
It is the other.
Okay, well, tell the context behind that when you got told to piss off like 100 times.
Yes. So,
is it Rotex Corporation?
Rotary
Corporation.
Rotary. So there was a company on Regal Row, and I want to say it was 626 Regal Row. And there was a lady that worked there and ran the shop, and she smoked the cigs, like we talked about.
Absolutely. It's a must.
Yes. Yep. And she would greet me at the dock door and say, "Quit calling on us. We don't need anything."
Yeah.
I was like, all right.
Your tracheotomy is what you need.
Yeah. Wasn't that the two ladies from The Simpsons?
Yeah. Marge Simpson's sisters.
Yeah. So she would meet me at the dock door, and I'd be like, "Hi, do y'all need a building?" "No, we don't need a building." "Okay." 6 months later, "Hey, here I am again. You need a building?"
Yeah.
"No, I don't need a building." Well, she took it to the next level. She would write. So what I used to do back then was, after every cold call, you got 1 of 2 letters. If I talked to the DM, you got a letter that said, "Hey, thanks for visiting with me. My name's Jeff Mercer. I specialize in Brook Hollow. I do industrial real estate. If you ever have a need, give me a call. I'm your guy."
Yeah.
Or if I didn't talk to you, it was like, "Hey, sorry I missed you. I'm Jeff Mercer. I do industrial real estate. If you ever need a building, give me a call."
Yeah.
So I would send those letters to her in the mail. And she had a special type of hatred for guys like me.
Yeah.
And she would write little crabby notes on there and say, "We never need a building. We're never going to work with you." And she would fax those back to me. Well,
what a sweetheart.
Yeah, what a peach. And so what I would do with those and I would get those from several different people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in true 80s style fashion, I would pin those up on the wall behind me.
Yeah.
Those were my motivation. And so one day I was like, okay, I'm sick of calling on Tony. She's going to stonewall me. I'm going to call corporate. So I called corporate, and the guy was like, yeah, he was in Georgia. He was like, "Hey, yeah, we'd like a building a little closer to the east side of Dallas." I was like, "Okay, well, I'll help you find that, sir."
Yeah.
He goes, "Yeah, while you're doing that, though, you need to sell my building."
Yeah.
And so, okay, well, I'll do it. And so I had these fax messages from Tony hanging on my wall, telling me how I was dumb, stupid, didn't know what I was doing, and we're never moving. And then, lo and behold, after finding them a building in East Dallas, Mesquite, on Town East Boulevard, I remember that.
Back to your CC days, pretty much.
Yeah,
same neighborhood.
Yeah, not too far from CC. I found that building.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a company on Sovereign Row called Continental Trophy.
Yep.
And Continental Trophy, John Calcote, he was like, "I need a building."
John Lee Calcote.
John Lee. John Lee said, "I need a building, but you got to sell my building."
Yeah.
And then Atlantic Foods.
Yeah. He's on Sovereign.
He's on Sovereign now. Yeah. He's in the Continental Trophy building that was their building.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
So another 3-way sell.
Mm-hmm.
I lined it all up.
He's pretty much behind the building you bought on Chancellor too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's his name?
Golly.
Mr. Patel.
It is like just
it's right there
on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah. But it's Atlantic Foods.
Mm-hmm.
And
George Pally. George Patel. George. Yeah, I think so.
I think it's George Patel.
Something like that. Patel's an easy
super
bet.
nice guy. Super nice guy.
Yeah.
I don't remember where he came from. I think he was leasing a space, maybe like a Wiley Brothers space.
Mm-hmm.
So he bought the Continental Trophies building on Sovereign Row.
Mm-hmm.
Continental Trophies bought the building on Regal Row from Rotary Corp.
They're still in there today.
And then Rotary Corp bought the building on Town East Boulevard. But I still have the letter from Tony saying, we're not going to ever work with you. You're an absolute idiot. Go away.
Mm-hmm.
And actually where that comes from is Tom Lynn saw my letters hanging in my office.
Mm-hmm. And
when I closed all 3 of those deals, he framed them for me and made that frame, which is hanging in the cabin.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
That's
real estate, baby.
That's perseverance in real estate, man.
Yeah.
Like, that is, like, when I see that, I still look at, every time I walk into the cabin, I look at that thing, I'm like, that's what it's all about.
It is.
You know?
It is.
It's, I always like to equate what we do with the neighborhood like that. And, you know, we've always done some market specialization, but it's like you're playing chess, you're playing checkers, you're playing poker all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's all on the same board. You know what I mean? And like, man, like pulling 2 trifectas off like that. Like, I've never pulled a trifecta off like that. Like, I've just done I've sold a building and leased it the same day, you know, but like, I've never like sold 3 in one day. I don't know anybody that's sold 3 in one day. It's funny. When I had Mosher on here, he goes, I was like, hey, what's your best deal? He goes, well, I've never like done a trifecta like Jeff has, but
right.
You know, I mean, like, that's pretty crazy to do it twice. But like, at the end of the day, cold calling and all this stuff is all about perseverance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like I want you to tell me no, and I want you to tell me no and use someone else, and I'll still be there to tell me no again. Like, because
at some point you don't even think about it anymore. You're just like, oh yeah, okay,
yeah,
again,
right? Like, and do you kind of find cold calling like kind of therapeutic now in a way? It's kind of like a way to get
I don't have any problem doing it. I mean, I've been cold calling up in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Trying to get those buildings leased.
Yeah.
And you know, now it's just like, hey, I've got this building, and they're like, oh, we don't need it. And I'm like, oh, that's fine. What's going on with your company?
Yeah.
We want to help you someday.
Yeah.
You know, just building the brand. And it is therapeutic. It's not painful anymore.
It's not work that much anymore. It's kind of it's kind of refreshing in a way. It's like, you know, you just have a new conversation with someone about new ideas, you know. It's
the businesses that I noticed that grew the most were the most receptive to seeing me. The people that always said, go away, we never want to work with you.
Yeah.
They kind of faded away.
They just died away.
Yeah, it was the companies that said, "Come on in. What are you doing? I don't need you.
Yeah,
but we can be business associates or friends."
Yeah,
and those companies continue to grow.
Yep.
It was the companies that were always like shun wall, shun wall, shun wall.
Yeah,
that they weren't open to innovation or new ideas, and it kind of stalemated them.
Yeah. No, I mean, so like, they don't have everything figured out, right? Like, it's what I always thought about was whenever like a gatekeeper would like shit on me or all that stuff, I was like, do you understand? I'm literally calling you about the largest asset on your balance sheet. That's what I'm calling you about.
Yeah,
I'm calling you about this, and I'm calling you to tell you how, whether it's going up significantly or down significantly, or how to way to monetize it right now and like bolster your business, you know? And
that was the Carlton Sheets in you. Was like, hey, let's make something that's a negative cash flow turn into a positive cash flow.
Right. I remember one time I sold a building for a guy. Actually, I bought the building. This is crazy. This was my Cash Road deal. I had this listing on Cash Road. And I was like, what do you want to do with this, man? I called this guy forever. His name was Michael Coronado. You called him originally, and then when you stopped calling, you handed him to me. Brian Booth put a new roof on his roof for him because that was back when we used Brian Booth as a roofer. But
are you out there?
Yeah, he's out there. He's LinkedIn me a couple times.
Really?
Yeah, he's out there.
Okay.
Still. Yeah,
cool.
Get a little reunion going. And but he was like, hey, I'm just gonna shut my business down. And da 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 da. And I was like, I think sell your business. He's like, what do you mean? I go, well, just give me your financials and I'll go through it So I went through it all with him and boom, boom, boom. And then I literally sold him to a client around the corner as a woodworking guy. And he was a shutter company and they still have a little business going together today. And it's like, but it was like, I was like, he made $150,000 on that thing that he was just going to throw in the trash, And, but I think I don't know, man. There's so many cool things that you can creatively use within real estate. Like I don't know. I've just learned so much doing it. Like to like just be, I don't know, agile, I guess you could call it. Is that my phone going off somewhere? Oh, they left. Okay. Hold on. Vegetable rake.
Okay.
It's 5:15.
Who'd you have it for last time?
I had Pete Richardson here on this morning, and then I had Nathan Denton on Tuesday. Then I had Spellman last week.
It's Spellman, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I'm doing Sarah Landcart like next week.
I think that'd be a great one.
Yeah.
That's such a different spin.
Mm-hmm. So it's fun. It's cool. It's like getting traction. Like it's like people are knowing about it and listening to it, and they're like, yeah, like everybody's like listening to all the stories of all the brokers, and and so what I want to do is like, you see that book right there? It says Tools of Titans up there. That's like a book. It's like a documentary book of everybody he's interviewed, and it's like a 2 to 3 page excerpt. So I want to make a book, Confessions of a Street Broker, and it's like everybody I interviewed.
Okay.
It's like here's like the 2 to 3 pages on them and what they did. So,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's really cool.
So, I mean, but like, think about it. Like, what's crazy is like, we're in Dallas real estate. We're in Dallas industrial real estate. Like, I mean, like, it ain't like I lucked into this because you sought out. I was like, well, I'm not hot enough to be in fucking pharmaceutical sales.
I've heard you say this so many times.
You're not hot. Like, you're either going to be, it's funny is like, you thought you were competing with industrial real estate or pharmaceutical sales. Yeah. You didn't realize there was office real estate.
Yeah.
With the hottest people. And
they are cuties.
Oh, they're beautiful. And like, dude, have you ever done, like, when you do an office deal, it's like, oh, you have all the information like immediately. This is unbelievable. And there's no needles next to the door when I walk in that I have to get rid of before the client shows up. This is incredible.
Why do $5 million assets get such a low bar on the marketing?
I don't know. Hey, but it always has. It
has. I mean, like, hey, we'll have a listing. It's $10 million. It's like, we should have space plans and surveys and aerials and every metric in the building measured.
Yeah.
And they're like, no.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that.
No. We ain't spend that money.
Yeah.
No.
Of course you wouldn't.
No.
Because there's someone selling an Audi for $100,000 and they have a 200-page booklet on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, okay. So tell me of like a book that like really changed your trajectory.
Well, if you would have met me in 2002, which you were there to meet me, you and I would be sitting in the Venetian.
Yep.
Talking about Og Mandino.
Yep. The OG.
In his wisdom and what he had taught us. And for what felt like 36 hours, us just spindling all over that. So The Greatest Salesman in the World was at that time a great book. But during COVID, I reread 1984.
George Orwell.
Yes.
Yep.
And I reread Animal Farm. And I would say in the last 5 years, those two books have definitely shaped the way I view the world.
Yeah.
The absolute statement in 1984 is the point of war is to end surplus. And that's what COVID did.
Yeah.
It ended surplus.
Yeah.
We got into a very inflationary state in this country, in this world. And he nailed it. And that author, he's he kind of haunts me. But right now those two books are huge. I love reading Larry McMurtry books.
Yeah.
And I'm reading one right now called The Desert Rose, which is about the dark side of Vegas.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to give that book eventually to Rick Medina, so I bought it for him.
Yeah.
But it's a great book. I love Larry's books. But 1984 is it's a visionary. It's a visionary book in my mind.
Isn't it crazy that he kind of it's almost like prophesizing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the book's almost written like scripture.
Yeah.
It's like the statements are they're not like, Dick went down to the water hole and Jane was down there washing her clothes.
Yeah.
It's more like, the purpose of war is to end surplus, which is like a scary statement.
Yeah.
And then Animal Farm, the pigs take over. And in the beginning, they're like, well, 4 legs bad, two legs are good, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then in the end, they switch around, and the pigs become the humans.
Yeah.
And so it's just very, very symbols and crazy book.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's a very interesting time we're in right now. But don't you feel like everybody always says it's an interesting time we're in right now?
Yeah, I don't. One thing you were talking about earlier is like ups and downs, and most brokers that are in the world today, they've never seen a down.
No, right.
Yeah. Well, I've seen Y2K.
Yeah.
I've seen the .com bubble. I've seen the Great Recession.
Yep.
And here's the good news. The down is only about 20% of what everyone thinks it is.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of people interview with me and they think, I don't want to get in the business right now because this is the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
It's not. It's the beginning of not so easy times. But we're going to have a little down period and then things will get better and we'll take off again.
So I just remember this was one day I'll never forget this. I was sitting in some guy's office on Halifax Street. And this was when when Obama was going to get elected.
Yeah. That was a very memorable day.
Oh, yeah. And, obviously this is a white male business owner that was very scared of Obama getting elected.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there looking at him do you really think his fucking election has any bearing on the actual outcome of your business?
No.
No. It doesn't. And
you still get up and do your deal tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that you're sitting here saying this to me just makes me go, whatever, dude. It's just you're an idiot. And it's funny, everybody in the CR finance bro world's been stay alive till 25. I was I was no, let's scoop and score in 24. Man, I think markets will dictate certain things, but I think at the end of the day, you make your own market.
You do.
And, and you make your own market by actually executing your business plan. Like, and that's kind of like, like to kind of sum a lot of the things up that you talked about is like, you went to Robert Lynn and they gave you a plan, right? And like, and if you just execute the plan, everything works out.
Right. So I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this.
Yes.
So when you and I were growing up, no one ate avocados.
They didn't. I don't think they existed.
Neither
did sushi.
Right. No one really. No one ate avocados when we grew up, and no one definitely ate Brussels sprouts. Right. 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 No one ate that.
No.
And
Brussels sprouts were on the Wonder Years. And I remember an episode of the Wonder Years where Kevin had to eat the Brussels sprouts at the end of the episode. And it was like,
yeah, I mean, it was like torture.
Yeah.
But one day, the Pied Piper came along.
Yeah.
He said, avocados, Brussels sprouts. That's a superfood.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you right now, young real estate people, investing in commercial real estate, it's a super investment.
Yeah, it totally is.
It's a super investment. It's not just super food. It's a super investment.
Yeah.
I wanted to get that out.
It's 10X.
It's 10X.
Cash flow.
It's Brussels sprouts. Commercial real estate are the Brussels sprouts.
Could you imagine if you went all in on Brussels sprouts in about 1992?
Oh, man.
Oh, you'd be just crushing it. 10X. You'd be like 30X in that.
Yeah. So, yeah, Isabella, when Tom was serving up those sandwiches, they didn't have avocado on them.
No.
They didn't have Brussels sprouts on the side.
But if Tom Ling was a market, Serranos would be what you buy, dude. Like, feed into that market.
Serranos are a superfood.
Serranos are a superfood.
Real estate is a super investment.
Real estate is a super investment.
Yes. I wanted to get that out because that is the truth.
It is. It's a fact. Like other than oil, I don't know anything. And I just know oil just because I know some dudes that made some money on oil. And I'm like, I don't completely understand this, but this is kind of cool. But like real estate, it's pretty much real estate too. It's just a different type of real estate.
Right.
Yeah.
It can't be that hard, right? But
no.
But we haven't learned it.
Well, so.
Is there a Carlton Sheets course on that?
Well, I don't know. So I drove to Midland yesterday. I was in Midland yesterday.
Really?
All day. And I drove from Lubbock to Midland. And it was... my buddy goes, okay, so think about it this way. You see that drill? That drill going in the ground is a development. And the development at the end of the day is a pump jack.
Okay.
And the pump jack is going to sink down and then suck up oil. And that's cash flow. Cash flow. Every pump is cash flow, right?
Okay.
And
but it takes like an uplift to get there, right? It's like, what's it cost to drill a well? Like 1, 2, 1, 5?
No, I think more than that. I think it's probably like 6 or 7 million now to drill a well.
Okay.
And we met with a guy yesterday, just like randomly, that was like drilling 11 wells, and
wow.
And so, man, I mean, like Midland is like there's wells everywhere. I mean, like you're on the runway at the airport, and there's wells like on the runway.
Wow.
Like it's a different world out there. It's insane. But like when he put it in the context of real estate, it made sense to me. He's like, okay, so you don't develop, but like if you were going to build a building, it would be drilling this well.
Right.
And then once the well's built, you'd put the pump jack in place, and the pump jack is the building.
Right.
And the pump jack just delivers cash flow.
Just brings rent.
Every pump. So I don't know. Like
maybe next time.
That's what I told Barrett. I said, hey man, you should probably get into real estate. But if you got a petroleum engineering degree, it couldn't hurt either.
No, that'd be really interesting.
He wants to be a landman in a way. So I was like, maybe you'd be a landman for that, So it's funny.
Where do they keep those files? Like if you have a mineral interest, how do you find it?
Dude, I don't know. Like you just...
Is it like subterranean title?
Could be. And but like the landmen are like a title company and a real estate agent at the same time.
I don't know where those documents are.
And it's funny. I go, well, isn't all the minerals bought up here in Midland already? They're like, no, there's still some left, like on the fringe. I'm like, But what's even crazier is that you have like, so what I learned yesterday, this is like fascinating to me. Like oil's fascinating to me. And so what is like, okay, well, imagine ConocoPhillips has bought 30,000 acres, but they can't get to it. Like they just don't have the capacity to go drill 30,000 acres.
Is that because they can't go down and over?
No, they just don't have enough people to drill all the wells. Okay. So they go take another operator and they invest in them. It's just like real estate, right? You take like a Principal Financial, right? Well, they give money to, like Holt Lunsford or somebody to go invest in some buildings, right? Because they don't have time to allocate all the money out. They don't have time to actually operate. They need to allocate all. They need to get it all allocated. So the same thing in oil, like Exxon, Conoco, they'll allocate out and give it to a local operator that can go drill and get the well completed and get it done and start pumping out, and then they share royalties with each other.
Okay.
I don't know. It's fascinating. I don't know. It's pretty cool. So next life, man. Next life.
Next time around.
So, okay. So a lot of young brokers listen to this. What else?
Let's talk about investment goals when you buy buildings.
Yeah.
Here's basically the rules that I've picked up over the years. Number one, whatever you buy, you need to double your money in 5 years.
Yep.
That comes from Phil Schiebel, Charter Holdings.
Phil Schiebel, OG. You want to talk about OG industrial guy? Investor guy, that's him.
Yeah, he was the best investor I ever came across.
R.I.P. man.
Yeah.
Golly.
Yeah, so he worked for Charter Holdings. So I bought the one building on Chancellor. He bought the rest of the package.
Yep.
I was in the Jack Daniels Club.
The Mavs Club? At the Mavs?
Yep. At the American Airlines Center.
Yep.
And I was introduced to him, and he said, I'm buying all these buildings. And I said, that's all I do every day is Brook Hollow.
I'm your guy.
I'm your guy. Great relationship. Super tough day when he left. So,
yeah.
But he taught me that. So whatever you buy, you need to metric it to double your money in 5 years.
Yep.
If it doesn't pencil to that,
it's probably not worth doing.
It's an okay deal.
It's
not a great deal.
Totally agree.
Alternatively, another metric that I always follow is 70 cents on the dollar.
Yep.
So if a building's worth 100, you buy it for 70, that's a win.
You probably can't mess that up.
You probably can't screw that up.
Yep.
And then the final metric that I always follow is if I can buy anything and it's the cap rate is 3 to 4% over the interest rate at that time.
Yep.
That's a win.
Yeah, it's a win. You're positive cash flow immediately.
Yeah. So those
cash flow,
you're going to 10x your life.
10x.
Here's something else I wanted to talk about with you.
Yep.
All these Grant Cardones and all the thought leaders of our industry, they tell you need to fail more.
Yeah.
But how many times could Matador Capital fail before no one invests in it anymore?
That's an interesting question. So Tammany's best friend.
Okay.
All right. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's a capital raiser for a big company. And I said, hey, you know what? I got a real good, my CPA, they raise some money and stuff and da-da-da. I go, maybe they do a lot of oil and gas investments. Maybe they invest with you. And so I had lunch with my CPA one day and he said, oh, what's the name of the company? I told him, he goes, oh yeah, we were in their first fund. Their first fund lost $150 million.
Oops.
They're on Fund 7.
Wow.
Right?
They kept buying into that?
No, they didn't, but other people did. He's like, and we never did a fund again with them.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay. So they lost that big money.
I think, well, I mean, they didn't put 150 in, but like they put money in and they were part of the 150 that got lost. And I honestly think if I lose once.
Yeah. So there's this philosophy out there that you should fail more But I don't think that's necessarily true.
No, like
is it worth it? I mean, to take crazy chances, to just say you failed once or failed twice, but I'm trying harder than everyone else. I think that's kind of false logic. This isn't sports.
No.
This isn't sports. This is business.
Yeah.
And people want to see wins.
They do. They only want the wins. They don't want to hear about your losses.
No. And so I'm not a big believer in this. You should fail. The only real estate deals that I've lost money on one real estate deal.
Which one?
And that was the house I bought in Graham, and we overfinished it. And we ended up selling
Kentucky?
Yeah, Kentucky.
Okay.
And we ended up selling that for a loss.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever, we sold it. But everything else I've either.
But did you make it up on the note because you owner financed it, right?
I did. I haven't run the math on that.
But you probably made it up on the note.
I may have.
Yeah.
I may be cash positive at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I hear that a lot, and I'm thinking to myself, especially in your situation when you're going out to public or talking to investors, failing is not an option.
It's not an option.
It's not an option.
So to combat that, the biggest stat we track, and this is what I push on Will and everybody here, is like, we need deal flow. And so the biggest thing we track every week is how much in millions of dollars did we see on deal flow?
Right.
Because
I've heard that number.
Because I want to be able to say, wait till next week. There'll be a better deal next week.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to do this.
Right.
And it was funny, man, like, and I mean, the other side of this thing that people don't see is like, we have a line item on our P&L called terminated deal costs that I don't call anybody for. Like,
right.
I might,
right.
And like, that's just hard cost. That doesn't take into equation any part of my employee salaries that I paid to work, 7
underwriting,
people, 7 people on a deal, touching a deal. It's I was asking for an extension on a deal the other day. I go, well, you haven't really performed any due diligence. I go, sir, back up. I've already had my attorney review the title policy. There's fucking $3,000. I go, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, and I've paid salary. I can't even tell you what that is because you would throw up. I do think if you ever have a deal go bad, it could totally take you down.
Yeah. So I think this notion of you should fail more is maybe a false notion in our industry. And and I've pushed myself to buy stuff that challenges that concept.
Mm-hmm.
But I think fundamentally, I think you should stay away from it. And I think we should all say, not just you, but I'm just saying, like, we shouldn't underwrite deals or take deals or buy deals that could fail. I think you should only buy deals that win.
Absolutely. And so the biggest thing that we look at at the end of the day is we always just say yield is temporary, basis is forever.
Right.
Like, if I can buy the building at the right basis, I can always escape. So that's kind of how we think about it,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think some other closing thoughts. It's just really, I think fundamentally, if I could reach out there to the masses, just have a plan,
Having a plan and executing it and it being the wrong plan is so much more effective than not even having a plan at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's
just to have a plan and follow it. It guides your every action. It guides your daily tasks.
Yeah.
And in the end, if you find out, like I found out with coaching, it's not what you want to do, you're still going to be very successful.
Yeah.
Otherwise. And that was something that was really helpful to me. And I tell my kids that all the time. It's like, well, I know you don't really know what you want to be in life,
mm-hmm.
but just imagine what you want to be in life and seek that and make a plan to execute that. And even if you get there and it's different than you thought it was going to be, you'll be better for it.
Well, and give it 6 months. I think everything needs at least 6 months of attempt.
Sure.
Like if you attempt something for 2 months and it didn't work, it's like, well, you didn't stick it out. You didn't wait for the whole cycle to go through itself, And so don't get discouraged in a plan when it gets hard, because it's gonna get hard. Can you see my fucking eyebrow like twitching right now?
Oh, is that from the teeny?
I think it was from the teeny.
The
teeny tiny sweetly.
That means you need another martini.
Yeah, I know, probably. Yeah. So, but what other words of wisdom can Jeff Mercer bestow upon the street broker knowledge? You about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Little NWA right there. Angie be all about that. So,
my whole career, and I've heard of a lot of people say this on this show, but it was always brick by brick. It was never like huge splashes.
Yeah.
After every great win, I would still go down to Regal Cafe.
Yeah.
And eat a burger there, and that was like my celebration. But just rinse and repeat every day.
Yeah.
And that's really
mow the lawn.
Mm-hmm. And that's really it. Just
what's something about Jay Murr that no one really knows? Like, what's your uniqueness thing that you got?
Well, it's probably, I think I said this one time to the Dallas Business Journal, but my way to relax is to go out there and work in the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
And
you love to chainsaw some trees for a couple hours.
I love the Tierra Grande. Get out there and cut trees or plow or fill up a fish tank somehow.
We got it.
One way or the other.
We did it.
One way or the other, we're going to get it filled up. But, I love being in nature and love the outdoors. And, that was always like our dad would say, your dream should be a 50-acre bass tank.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And, it's funny. Like I was like, okay,
what you got?
I want to do that.
Yeah.
And so just getting out there in nature and experiencing all that's been kind of my passion.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
No, you've done it. And I always like to say this about you, but like I remember when I had to put your deer blind up one time for you, I said, I don't know where this is, but I know it's the hardest place to get to on this piece of dirt.
Right. Do hard things.
Right. And it's funny. I was driving around the ranch the other day, and I found the whole back way up through you could just drive there. You didn't have to go up the rocks.
Yeah, I plowed that. Yeah. I had that plowed a while back, and it's a lot cleaner.
Yeah, I was like, oh, where's this road go? Oh, it just keeps going up. And I was like, wait a second. Wait, there's your blind. I didn't have to go down all the hard rocks and stuff, but I went up the hard rocks the first time. So,
I remember all those hunting trips with Spellman. Everything was hard.
Oh yeah. Of course.
We would load the deer blinds in the back and they would explode. And we would
pick them up, put them back in, they explode again about another 50 yards down the road, all that. No, that's good. I'm on a quest to make the ranch great again. I got some plans. I'll tell you later.
Oh, good. Tell me about those.
So, but I think anybody listening to this, this is the OG story of street brokerage, right? This is the power of street knowledge. Like this is it. It's like I said when I started this to kind of bookend this, is like there's so many guys that have spawned from like watching you do what you do and do everything consistently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the end of the day, it's just consistently showing up and doing the same. It's what do they call it? Motivation and discipline are not the same thing. Like, you can be motivated on some days, but then there's other days where you just have to be disciplined, where you're not motivated to go do these things and to make those calls, to hit all your call goals and call your availables and just know your market better than anybody else. Because, you know, and I thought about this one time. This is one thing that always stuck with me is, and I always pitch this when I was doing a listing. You're like, hey, here's my listing reporting, and this is what you would say is, this is my reporting, and this is for you, but it's really more for me.
Right.
You know,
right.
It's
It
more.
is.
It is. It's more for me to keep me on point, and
that's a huge mind shift.
Yeah,
is like, I'm not really doing this for you. I'm doing this for me, so I stay on plan.
Yeah, yeah. Because I need to execute this deal, and you need to hear about how I'm going to execute it. But like, more importantly, I need to execute this because the plan is to make real estate deals, you know. And
because Tommy and Shay and Jack, they need those cars and those whatever, those shirts and shorts,
shoes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was.
So, but I like to call those Jeff Mercerisms, because you got a ton of them, and it's what's cool about this is we can do this again and get into a whole nother set of things. But at the end of the day, man, like, it's been so much fun, like, learning everything from you. Like, it's if you look right behind you, there's a whole article in the Dallas Business Journal about me having Rookie of the Year. And it's just like, well, this guy just told me what to do, and I just went and did it,
Right.
And,
right.
And
you did a great job.
And what's cool too, though, is like, you had Boozer was Rookie of the Year before that. Keenan was Rookie of the Year after that. Like, and like, it was just like, and it's like, just, it's simplicity, and it's just work, and that's the fun thing. I mean, that's
right. There's no, like, it's not like magic.
No,
it's
there's
just
no
like
magic.
We'll tell you what you need to do.
Yeah. And
will you do it?
Will you do it? And it's not, will you do 2/3 of it? Not will you do 1/3 of it? Will you do all, like, 100% of it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the guys that, they slack off on 1%, one part of the process. And that's not, it doesn't work that way. It all works. It works in harmony. It doesn't work, in brokenness like that. But at the end of the day, man, like, it's been so awesome, like, learning everything. And like, and what's great is just having a sounding board to be like, hey, I'm doing this. What do you think about that? And, it's like, here comes a Carlton Sheets idea out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, well, what if you did this? Well, it's like, man, I didn't even think about that, but that's pretty cool,
Right.
And so anyways, the chess, the checkers, the playing poker, and that's what commercial real estate is, man. And that's what being a street broker is. And you've embodied that. And in my opinion, you're the OG of it. And that's been really cool being able to be taught by you. And then a lot of people have been taught by you. So I think that's really a testament to you. And that's something you should be really proud of, that, like, you've spawned a lot of those people in this industry and a lot of great brokers. So
yeah, that's really high praise. I don't know if I deserve all that, but
yeah, well, that's what you've done, man. So, well, I'm gonna wrap this up, and we're gonna go drink some more martinis.
Let's go.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Jeff Mercer, owner of Mercer Company, OG motherfucker. Let's go, baby.